All right. Hello, everybody. So, in today's video, we're going to pay off $447,000 of debt, only starting with $38.09 in the checking account. And before I actually demonstrate how to do this on Excel, I'm going to show you my super secret monthly cash flow tracker. So, it is a program called Grist. Now, I actually created this in Grist um, starting from yesterday. And before, I actually created a debt tracker, right? So this is actually even more exciting because you get a bigger picture of your finances. And I don't know if you remember the super secret equation for cash flow. I think they talked about in the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. Income minus expenses minus debt payments equals your monthly cash flow, right? And so what I did is I got Claude AI to help me generate all these income transactions, right? Deposit, freelance, consulting, and then take a look at all these expenses. I had Claude generate those too for about, year and a half worth of transactions. And here's a really cool thing. This program is so flexible. I can even do things like mark, hey, these are the things I only want to pay in cash, like my rent. I could definitely do that, right? And other things too that I'll show you, blow your mind away, is that you can keep track of all your debts as well as the statements, right? So I have 5 credit cards here, and then you can see that all the statements for the past year and a half are here too, and you can upload them if you want. Keep track of things like the cash flow index, what's your total credit limit. So you can see here it's 384,000. You can get reports. So for example, if you want to see like how you're doing with each bank, so how much debt you have per bank, right? So I have 5 banks here, 1 credit card per each bank, and then if you have multiple, you can easily track it. And then not only that, right? So this is the from the previous demonstration where I showed how to track your debts only, right? So you have your balance, debt payments, interest, and you can see from month to month. And let me zoom in here, month to month, what is the change in debt, right? So this green is like, hey, your debt's decreasing, and then here the red is increasing. All right, really cool. And then in yearly, all right, so you get to see the yearly, do a yearly report too. So this blows my mind. All I have to do, okay, all I have to do is just enter in the information. Somehow just get that data here. Maybe we could just do extract of the bank account, monthly bank account reconciliation, just copy and paste it. And then you can now, it's just a one-time deal to set it up, see your monthly cash flow. And green means we're positive cash flow. And I've set it up and I'll show you behind the scenes. Let me show you here. Okay. Cash flow greater than 0, show me green. Cash flow less than 0, show me red, right? In fact, actually, let me do this. Let me enter in an expense so that we can see the red cash flow, okay? I'll just say other, okay? That's the word that accountants hate the most when you say other or classify another expense, and then I'm just gonna put $5,000 in an other expense. Now let's track our cash flow. Ooh, negative $1,838. Okay. And you might say, why am I so excited about this? Because this really gives you an accurate picture that I guarantee you that 95% of people don't have with their finances. 95% of people. And if you want something like this set up for you, click the Google form link below. I am going to charge you money. In fact, someone today, you know what happened? I get this all the time. So, if I don't think I'm making fun of you for saying this, but they always put in a compliment, man, I love your work. Can I get a free spreadsheet? And I'm like, no. Right? And they always say this too, and I don't know why. Oh, I already know this. Well, if you know how to do it, then you should be seeing so much interest that you could pay someone for their services, right? Like, I'm not crazy for thinking that because that's how I think. I pay people all the time. Okay. But this is what people say, man, I really understand this, and this is, but I can't pay you what you're asking for. And I don't even charge that much, to be honest. But I can't pay you for what you're asking for. And can I get the free spreadsheet? Like, what free spreadsheet? Right? If you get it, then you can easily set up something like this. And if you can't, then that's okay. And then you pay me and we all win, win, win. right? The only person who loses when they have a lot of money and do nothing with it is really, I guess, inflation, right? Because you're not supposed to hold on to money. You're supposed to spend it on people who make your life better or more productive. And I think a lot of people don't understand that, right? Like that's the whole point of investing. And this is why I don't think most people experience rich people problems, because if you've ever had a lot of money in the bank, you feel quite nervous because you're not spending it, right? It's a very different problem from having a lot of debt. Anyways, I have rambled on and on. So let me do this. I'm going to delete this entry. And okay, prepare to be blown away, because as soon as we correct our data, then our monthly cash flow auto updates. Isn't that mind blowing? And again, what's the equation for cash flow? You ever study real estate investing? I don't even remember the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'm assuming they talked about it there, but cash flow is income minus expenses minus debt payments. Wow, amazing, right? And I guarantee you, most people did not have this clear picture. They talk a big game, but they don't have it. Right. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm not making fun of everybody. It's just that when people do something to you long enough, you just kind of notice a pattern. And I've had people get angry at me for noticing patterns, but that's what we do when you become an expert at what is your craft. You become the kung fu master of paying off debt. You know, like if you're really rich, rich people spend money. But it's really weird to me when people say, oh man, I've been doing this and I really get it. And I'm paying off all my debt. And then, they can't even pay like a couple of bucks for some help. No, I'm good. I'm like, okay, all right. It's a little contradictory story there. And so, it's the same thing with the bank, right? Before I get started, I just want to tell you something, because I'm going to ramble on and on. And the bank, believe it or not, especially when it comes to like business lending, 90% of business credit card applications are for fake businesses that don't even exist. And so the bank, what they do is just basic verification of your story, like seeing if you have a real address, for example, right? Like if your business has a real address, it could even be like one of those virtual things, if you know what you're doing, virtual offices. Um, you should be able to get business credit, right? You should be able to get business credit if the bank sees that you're an actual business. But if you're not an actual business, you're not going to get it. So, really easy things to verify, like, can I see you on Google or stuff like that? Right now, you can't see me on Google. At least you find me on YouTube. But most people, like, little things that don't get your story straight, like that don't make any sense to me. Like, if you're so successful with paying off debt, why can't you pay a person for their help? That's the whole point of having money, is that you get other people, you pay them, and then they help you. I pay people all the time. So if you're trying to save money and you're saying you're successful with paying off debt, that makes absolutely no sense to me, right? So little things like that, I see that, and makes no sense. Okay, or maybe you don't understand the purpose of money. All right, so now this is what we're gonna do. Okay, so let's just take a look here. We have income, expenses, leftover checking and savings, and then we have expense breakdown of how many debts we got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 debts. And then not only that, we have our personal expenses not tied to debt: food, gas, insurance, all that other good stuff, right? And after the month is over, we only have $38.09. So this is very frustrating, right? You're living on the edge, and I pretty much 99% guarantee anyone in this situation ain't sleeping well at night. So what we're going to show is that even with the same income and the same expenses, as long as we change the flow of money, it's going to be fine, right? At least in this demonstration, it will. If this were, if I meet you in real life, I'm just going to give disclaimers saying, I don't know if most people follow my directions, but we'll see. Okay. All right. So now this is what we're going to do. And we're going to do something really crazy. We're not going to save money. All right. We're not going to save money. And what we're going to do is we're going to focus on this cash flow number. Okay. So the only difference between the left side and the right side is that on the left side, the checking account is the final destination of your money. On the right side, it's actually something called a line of credit. So what's a line of credit? It's basically a financial tool where you could borrow money, pay it back, and then use it over and over again. Line of credit, right? And most people don't even know what a line of credit is because they're not heavily marketed. I think of it as kind of like the salad at McDonald's, right? The salad at McDonald's. Do they even sell salad anymore? I don't know because they don't market it, right? They used to. They used to. But you know what everyone's on? Ozempic because it's heavily marketed, just like a credit card. Okay. Now, what's why do we use a line of credit? Okay. The reason why we use a line of credit, I'll tell you why, is because this is the only debt tool the bank offers where if I put, let's say, my entire paycheck in, I can immediately get it out the next second, right? I can't even do that with a credit card. If I put my entire paycheck into a credit card, can I immediately get it out? No, this is why people resort to cash advances, right? I put this entire $7,000 paycheck into one of the credit cards. I'll say this $27,000 credit card. Can I use this now to pay the other credit cards and the other loans and the other expenses? No, I cannot, right? But with the line of credit, you definitely can. And we're going to assume that we have access to a $90,000 line of credit, 8%. Okay. And, some of you, because you're new to the journey, don't even think it's possible to get a $90,000 line of credit. And as a person who has gotten over 700 something thousand, I don't even know the exact number in lines of credit, credit cards, right? Credit cards technically a form of a line of credit. But although we're more focused on the personal or home equity side of things, um, you have to know the golden rule. Okay. What is the golden rule? Banks don't lend money to people who need it. If you watch any of my 700 and something videos, or maybe 500 videos, because I don't think I said it in the beginning, um, the way that you get credit is you go to a bank when you don't need money. And the problem is people always go to a bank when they need money, they get rejected, and then they don't think they're credit worthy, in which they're not when they go to a bank when they need the money, right? Banks don't lend money to people who need it. Now, why do we demonstrate getting a free and clear line of credit when you clearly have tons of debt and $38 left over? It's because it's easy to see the light. It's easy to say, oh my goodness, I really wish I had a line of credit so I can increase my cash flow. And then you would have never been here. But a lot of people, it's like the chicken and the egg, right? They don't really take active measures um, to deal with their finances until it's way too late. You might hear that from accountants too, where a lot of people with their taxes, it's a disaster, and sometimes you just can't fix it, right? Pray to the IRS gods. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so $38.09, but we're gonna assume we have a free and clear line of credit, and then you'll see, man, I really wish I had one. And then you would never even be here at all. That's kind of the irony, right? So what if we had a free and clear $90,000 8% line of credit? If we just transfer some debt into it, we can easily increase our cash flow. And let me just kind of go over one more time what the difference between the left side and the right side is. Left side is I pay my bills and I try for dear life to hold on onto my savings. That's what the left side is. Right side is I'm not holding on to my savings at all and I'm constantly attacking debt. And if I need to get money, which I would normally on the left side, you'd get it from the savings account. We just get it from the line of credit because the available limit in our line of credit is our savings, right? It's kind of a flip in mindset. And that's really hard for people, right? And I'm not making fun of anybody, but I'm just telling you things I've seen over the years that banks don't lend money to people who need it. If you're really, really, really rich, guess what? You'll actually pay for stuff because, the people who pay me are really rich, believe it or not. I can tell because when people, just like a bank sees you 90% like I said before, 90% of applications that go to a bank are fake, right? So they have the experience much more than I do to figure out who's BSing them or not. I have like little experiences here and there, but they really have the experiences of knowing who's BSing them. Okay. And the people that they will refuse is people who need money. Don't go to a bank when you need money. If there's anything that you learn from this channel is only go to a bank when you don't need money. In fact, there was one person who actually talked to me, and this person was like, "Hey, like, how do I, I'm thinking of getting, let's say, a personal line of credit," and I didn't even look at his credit report. Did not look at it. And you know what the magic question I asked him is? Okay, do you need money today? He's like, no. And I said, go if this is your goal, you will go to the bank tomorrow morning, Monday, or whatever day it was. You will go to the next day the bank is open, and you will apply for the line of credit if that is your goal. And then that person emailed me and said he got the line of credit. Why? Because banks don't lend money to people who need it. Because according to the bank, people who need money are incredibly bad people. Why? Because they don't pay you back. And I've said this before, the bank does a gajillion transactions a day. They have all the data in the world, kind of like an insurance company, to measure risk. And they know that people who don't need money, or people who need money, they don't pay you back. You might have experienced this in your personal life, but because it only happened 1 or 2 times, you're like, taking it really personally, right? But if you just kind of do it over, deal with people who burn you over and over again, like a bank does, banks aren't always the bad guy, but sometimes they are. Um, they do. Anyways, maybe I ramble too on and on and on about getting a line of credit. But anyways, back to my point. $7,000 of income, $6,000 of expenses, $38 of cash flow. Only difference here is we're using a line of credit as our main operating account. Main operating account, meaning we're going to put our entire paycheck into the line, take our expenses out, but we have to move some debt into the line of credit. So a lot of people get confused because, especially when they look at this in the beginning, they think this is the exact same situation. And I'm telling you, it's more about the way that the left and the right side differ is based on the philosophy and the flow of the money, right? It's not about the numbers, because you're going to see that the income is the same, but the expenses are not. Okay. And so this is what we're going to do. We're going to move that some debts into the line of credit. And the way that we do that to increase our cash flow is using something called the cash flow index. And I didn't start doing this until I got random people emailing me unsolicited saying they have like 20 something debts, right? Like, I have 20 something debts. And I was just like, oh my goodness, this is too much for me. And then I had an idea. I remember that thing called the cash flow index. So I started applying that formula, and I was like, oh, okay, this is how I track which debts to pay off first. Now, what is it? It's just the balance of the debt divided by the monthly payment. And you apply that to all your debts. And then you just kind of sort the debts from smallest to largest. In fact, I do that here in the cash flow tracker. Take a look at my debts, right? Where's the CFI? I'll show you the cash flow index right here. Bam! Okay, look at that. And then we could even put conditional coloring. If it's green, if it's between like 0 to 50 or over 100, we can put conditional colors like that. Believe this. Sort by the latest cash flow index and then go up from largest to smallest. Now, these are all credit cards. So credit cards in general have a small cash flow index. And you might say, what does that mean? Well, it basically means the lower the number, the more bang you get for your buck for paying off the debt. Right? Whereas this high number, this really high number, essentially means you get very little bang for your buck. So 30-year mortgages will especially have high cash flow indexes. So a lot of people, sometimes they just focus on paying off the mortgage first. And what does that mean? That means that they're paying $300,000 for a little bit amount of cash flow, 1,200. Why pay the 300,000 for 1,200 when you could get this 30 grand credit card and this 15 grand credit card? That's only 45,000 paid it off. Right? So why make life harder for yourself by focusing on the debt that gives you the least amount of cash flow? And most people never even pay off their mortgage anyways. I paid mine off in 2 years and 9 months, right? And so now this is what we're going to do, right? And if you know Spanish, you know how you say that? Esto es lo que vamos a hacer. Yeah, you want to know how you sound really cool when you speak Spanish? Just don't pronounce the S. Then you sound like one of those island Spanish people, like Cuban, Dominican Republic. You ever watch Fast and the Furious with Don Omar? Anyways, what are you talking about? When are they going to come out with Fast 10? Is it Fast? No, Fast 11. I remember Jason Momoa was like the Joker in that movie, and he looked like he was having the best time in that movie, Fast 10, and then they never came out with Fast 11. I think it's going to come out. but I think they had disappointing numbers for Fast 10 at the box office. But anyways, all right. So now let's go ahead and move these numbers below 50. And how much debt is that? 5, 8, 15, 27, 30. And I'm going to sum it up. Let me sum up. My bad. Sum up this. And that's $85,000 of debt. $85,000 of debt. And guess what happens here? This is the part that's really crazy. Okay. All of these numbers essentially go to zero. And this 3809, and let me zoom in right here. This 3809 magically turns into $2,865.59. So let's stare at this for one bit and notice how we have the exact same income. In fact, we actually borrowed additional money if you want to think about it. Like when you get a new line of credit, you're actually borrowing money. But in this case, it's like kind of like getting a new credit card and doing a debt transfer, right? Credit card balance transfer. And then somehow this $38.09 turns into $2,865.59. Okay. How do we do that? Must be a scam. Anyways, yeah, just enter in your numbers and you can see your actual cash flow. Your actual cash flow. I love it. And then if you want to see your debt reports, how you're doing with debt, if your debt is increasing or decreasing, you can track that too. And it's possible for you to have increasing debt and positive cash flow, right? But ideally, we should just get the debt payments to zero because it's really easy. You just apply all your money to debt. Ooh, excuse me. I'm burping here. All right. So now, final step is we put our entire paycheck into the line of credit, take our expenses out, and then rinse and repeat over and over again, right? So I'm just going to do this right here. G2 plus H2 minus 2865.59. And then what we're going to do is take the average daily balance, right? Multiply by the interest rate and then divide by 12. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste. And then we just wait until this sucker goes to zero. Okay. And then now, how many months? It's going to be 34 months, right? 34 months. And now, here's a cool thing. As long as you keep your numbers here, like all your debt payments, and you want to see, especially your loans go to zero, you can create a report on that, like, for each loan and each month, what's going on there. And actually, I want to see on the fly if I can actually create it. Like, give me 1 second. So what I do is add a page here, get a summation of my debt statements, and it's going to be, what would it be? It's the linked debt. That's what it is. Okay, let's see if this works or not. If it doesn't, I'll just keep it in for the giggles. All right. So let's go ahead and see if I can get meaningful. Oh, look at that. So I have 18 statements. This is what this means. This means 18 debt statements, total balances of that debt. So this isn't really that meaningful because it's just the statement balances and then total minimum payments per statement. So what we probably need to do is maybe if we want to get more meaningful data is like the average balance, right? The average balance. And then if we really want to split out how much we're actually paying, we probably need to separate like principal and interest. So we could probably do that with the formula, right? Interest minus minimum payment is your principal unless there's some sort of a fee. And you know what? I'm actually keeping track of that. But isn't that cool? You could like kind of calculate all these, and maybe instead of sum, I'll just do average. The average group balance. Can I do AVG? Oh, no, I can't. Let me see if I can do this. Average. There we go. See, this is the average balance. Average. And I just got to put AVG. Average balance, right? So this is the average balance per statement. Look at that. I'm creating my own reports. I am the cash flow master. Yes. It's like I'm getting high off my own supply. Is that from Scarface? All right, so now let's take a look here, and you could see that I paid off all my debt in 34 months. So like I said before, I use Excel as my whiteboard, right? I like to free flow it, but maybe going forward, I'm not going to do any more demonstrations like this because I have like over 700 or 800 videos. And I don't know if it's necessary for me to do it anymore. So I might create one of those, like, get an editor. Actually, I have an editor. I think he's done with the video. So I'm going to upload the video, and then, we'll just create more videos that are shorter, probably shorter in content, and then get some editing in there with the nice, smooth graphics. Every time I made videos, I did absolutely no editing, absolutely none, right? And that's kind of been good for me because um, it's helped me really just kind of free flow, just talking for like 1 to 2 hours. Actually, something like 20 to 30 minutes about whatever I want while paying off debt. And then you do something so many times, it just becomes like uh, I want to say crack, but that's not the right word. Anyways, how much debt did I pay off? It was 85K of debt. Okay, 85K of debt. All right, and so now we have the auto loan, student loan, and the mortgage. So let's just quickly check the okay, our loan calculator. And so if you don't know how this loan financial value calculators work, basically, if you have the original balance, the interest rate, and the term, you can auto calculate the payment amount, right? And not only that, if you have the current month, you can get the current balance. What's funny is someone actually wrote on a comment that you can't get the current balance if you know how much month has passed or how many months have passed. And I was like, dude, I literally showed you on that same video, because I make the same video over and over again. Yeah, you can. I just type in the month, and it gives me the balance, right? Like, what are you talking about? And that's just how it is. Anyways, current cash flow index. So we're doing a sort from smallest to largest, and then we just pay this one off. Now, why do we pay this one off, right? Well, it's literally not the highest interest rate, and a lot of people would just focus on the interest rate. That's all they focus on, and then they wonder why they struggle with debt, right? This is most people's strategy for paying off debt. It's, let me give you the smallest payment possible and do an income-based repayment program. And no insult to you if you've done that, right? You don't know what you don't know. But a small payment actually looks very attractive to a borrower when it shouldn't be, because that means that you're going to pay a lot of interest just over time, right? And the way that a bank makes money is if the interest rate goes up, your payment goes up and you pay more interest. That's obvious to most people. But what they don't know is as the term goes up, the payment goes down, but the interest goes up because the payments just like this small payments over time. And that's really the crux of a 30-year mortgage, right? That's literally what a 30-year mortgage is. Long period of time, small payment, you pay a lot of interest. So at 3% literally turns into a 50 over 30 years. Okay. Now, we're not going to focus on the interest rate. We're going to focus on the cash flow index. Okay. So 10 grand for $405 of cash flow. That's much better than 30 grand for 464, because I am paying less for more cash flow. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'm just going to go ahead and move this into the line of credit. And, if people are new, they always say the same thing to me, like, well, you don't address about getting a line of credit. My answer to that, and if you're not new to the channel, you'll know banks don't lend money to people who need it. They don't lend money to people who need it. That's the answer. And most people won't believe me. And I say that as a person with over $700,000 in lines of credit, is that banks don't lend money to people who need it, because people who need money are bad people. I don't know, according to the bank, not according to me. I love you. But according to the bank, you're a bad person because you won't pay them back, right? All right, so 37 months. You see that 2 months here, it was paid off, that auto loan. All right, so now 85 plus 22, 107K, right? 107K. And then, all right, so now we got the student loan, right? So now what's the balance of the student loan? It's 37 months. So 37. And then now we have 30 grand here. So as the cash flow index gets higher, the interest rate does matter, especially the interest rate difference between the loan and line of credit. Okay. So if you look at this 30 grand here, right, we have a 7% interest rate and we could move it to an 8 and it shouldn't be an issue, right? But the higher this number, the more sensitive we get to the interest rate. And so a lot of times people will look at these videos and say, "Oh my goodness, you're paying 8% line of credit for a 3% loan." And then act like they're gonna have a heart attack from that. And there's a right way of doing it, there's the wrong way of doing that. So supposedly. All right, so now this is the $3,735.19 of cash flow. And then I'm going to copy and paste, control, paste. Whoops, values only. All right, so now this is our cash flow, which is 3735.19. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste and 45 months. All right, 45 months. And then so now this is 107 plus 40, so this is gonna be 147K. All right, and then so now it's a 30-year mortgage. So what's the balance of a 30-year mortgage of 45 months? So this would be 45, and then it's gonna be $275,000 balance at 3%. Okay, and we can even see the total interest we paid, 32 grand. Okay, now that we paid so much interest, it's time to get rid of the mortgage. Let's get rid of it. Okay, get rid of this stupid thing. Because if we go to the full term, 360, we're paying 155 grand of interest. How many Teslas is that? Is that like 3, 4? I mean, why not just pay it off and buy yourself some 3 Teslas and impress some people? Actually, I don't even know if people get impressed. I don't know. Every time I buy something that I think will impress people, I think it's all an illusion and nobody really cares, but it doesn't matter. Let's go ahead and pay off the debt. We're debt free, mortgage free. So 275,000. So can we still use a line of credit to pay this off? Yes. But should you move the entire loan into a line of credit? It depends, because if the interest rate is the same or higher, like if the loan interest rate is the same or higher, then you could do that. You might lose some tax benefits. If you do, I'm not an accountant, but speak to your accountant. But this is what I heard, is that HELOC interest, and again, I'm not an accountant, don't quote me on this, is only deductible if it's for like personal home repairs or something like that, or home improvements. That's what I heard, right? Whereas a mortgage interest, I think it's deductible if you're itemizing. See, these tax rules, you know why I don't study taxes? Is because they get way too complicated. But if you have the right numbers, then you hand them to your accountant, then, they can assess what to do, right? They definitely can. Okay. So anyways, I'm not a lawyer or an accountant. That's what you always have to say in every single video. Okay, so it's $275,000. Now, some people will freak out and say, "Hey, you should just make extra payments all the time. Don't use a silly line of credit." And the reason why a lot of people have trouble with that is the same reason why a lot of people have trouble overpaying a credit card. I put this $7,000 into a credit card, then I can't pay other debts and I'm screwed, right? Even though a credit card is technically a line of credit, I pay $7,000 and I overpay my mortgage. I can't get that money back if I have emergencies. Now, given that this is the last debt and we have all these credit cards, okay, it's somewhat of a different situation. I get that, right? But why have we been putting money into a line of credit this whole time? Because it's the only tool available where we can overpay it and immediately get the money back. So it provides us the ultimate flexibility to overpay debt without worrying if we need the money or not, right? Or if we need money for emergencies. That's why a lot of people have trouble paying off debt, because the way that they think about debt is that I have to pay the minimums and I have to save as much money as possible. That's literally what we're doing here. We're just saying we're not saving any money. We're paying all of our money to debt, and we're doing a tool that allows us to get the money back easily, right? That's what this velocity method is. It's not saving money 2.0. I always say that all the time. It's like, this is literally just not saving money 2.0 rebranded. I don't know if you knew that or not, but it's really cool method of not saving money. That's why I talk about it all the time, because like I didn't even know these things called line of credit existed before I learned all this velocity stuff. All right. So now, okay, look, can we still use a line of credit, or is it just going to be like the most insane, hideous thing to pay a 3% loan with the line of credit? Well, I will show you the numbers. Okay. So as you can see right here, I have this special calculator where you can put your numbers in and then just move the debt into a line of credit. And again, you don't move the whole. I'll show you the difference between moving the whole debt into a line of credit versus partially. Okay. I'll show you the difference. Okay. So here's the thing that most people don't know. If you partially move the debt into a line of credit and just pay it off over and over again, it's completely different from moving the whole loan into a line of credit. Okay. So actually, let me put in my numbers. What are my numbers? I don't even know. Or actually, it's right here. Um, let's see. It's $300,000 of debt. 275 512.47. So 275 512.47. And then what's my income? Right? Income minus expenses. My debt service is cash flow. All right. So $7,000. And then living expenses is everything except for the loan you're trying to pay off. So it's just $2,000 here, 2,000, and then sweep amount. So it's just the amount you're moving into the line of credit. So we'll just do a small amount. I'll say $7,000. Okay. Now this gets paid off in 5 years, 22 grand. 5 years, 22 grand. Okay. Now, some people will say, wow, you're paying this 3% loan with an 8% line of credit. This is the worst thing in the world, right? Some people will say that. I've seen it on the internet. There's a guy named Zach who basically, lawsuit over something called Renatus. Oh, look at that. I'm using a Renatus calculator. And then I asked him an actual like meaningful question. Like, hey, there's actually the situation where, this would have helped people. And I can clearly show you the situation. And then the guy was like gaslighting me and said, oh, you didn't even teach that velocity crap. I'm like, what? That's not what I expected on my radar for 20, whatever year it was. It's like, oh, no, no, no. Let me show you this use case where it actually helped someone. He was like, nope. What? 22 debts, $4 left over? It's called ego, folks. It's called ego. Anyways, all right. So now take a look at this. So let's say, I always tell you this. Okay, 8% line of credit. You really do imagine that you're overpaying because this is an 8 and this is a 3, right? What if somebody gave you a 1% line of credit? Let me put in a 1 there. Oh my goodness, this barely made a dent. It barely made a dent. So, when people say like, you're ruining your life with an 8% line of credit because an 8 is bigger than that. Shut up. Yeah. I think that's the first time I've ever said that in a video. Maybe I'm just getting a little bit I don't know what's the right word. Cranky. You just like you see the same thing over and over again, and it just kind of show you, okay, this we went from 1 to 8. It literally did not make much of a dent. But if you move the whole loan into a line of credit, right? It's like 1 Tesla that you're overpaying, or maybe the Cybertruck. Okay. So let me just do this here. So that's why I say don't move the loan into the line of credit, especially the 30-year mortgage, not the entire thing. You don't need to do that. Okay. People aren't listening. Make 700 plus videos. And I know that there of you are out there who listen to this, very faithful, right? And I always say, hey, we're part of the debt-free cult, right? Maybe I always joke around that the reason I created this channel was just to create a cult, because if I can get you to believe that you should pay, 15% line of credit and apply it to 3% loan, then that means you will follow my every word. Okay. All right. So let's see. We'll say 5 years. We'll just say 8%. 5 years. It's not going to make that big of a difference. And then 0. And then 45 divided by 12 plus 5. And then that's 8.75 years. And then we're debt free. And what was that? 447K? Yeah, I believe it was 447K. 147 plus 300, 447K. And we are debt free. We are debt free. Yes, it's true. Now, here's my call to action. Okay. If you want me to help you keep track of your numbers, kind of like this, Google form link below, And don't email me saying, "Hey, I'm so successful, I don't want to pay you." Because you know what? I actually paid a lot of people to cut my grass, do things like this for me, help me with my numbers. And so if you're really successful, like McDonald's, guess what? They pay people. They pay the workers crap, but they pay, a gajillion dollars to people to help them with their operation. Because when you tell me that, I'm kind of like blown away that you're it's the same way that the bank thinks when they receive those 90% of applications for fake business credit cards. But it is what it is. All right. So look at that. Okay. So if you made it to the end of this video and you want to let me know, type in the comment box below. I am the cash flow master. I am the cash flow master. Because when I take a look at this right now, income, expenses minus debts, man, I get that beautiful monthly cash flow report. Yeah. You want this, don't you? Click the Google form link below. Click it. Now. I'm just kidding. That's my terrible impression of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Get down. No. I'm going to terminate the debt. No, I'm just kidding. I have a very bad impression. At least maybe I used to do it better in the past. All right. 40 minutes. That's a long video. Maybe someone stuck it out into the end. I'll know if you wrote the comment. Okay. Okay. Have a great day. I'll see you on the next one.